Instruction consists of a complex interaction between student, content, and teacher. The purpose of instructional design is to arrange this instructional exchange in order to optimize the quality of the interactions and, as a consequence, promote learning. While much attention has been given to the manipulation of the components of the instructional exchange, instructional designers have been only peripherally concerned about the milieu in which instructional programs are implemented. My report will not only focus on the different instructional models and design, but it will also focus on the management of instructional programs and which includes the planning and the organization for instruction. Instructional program is a replicable activity designed and implemented to achieve an instructional goal in a selected group of learners. The primary criteria for determining the success or the effectiveness of an instructional program are the measures of change in the selected group of learners that can be affective, academic, social, or physical. This change that we are pertaining is the learning of the learners. Instructional program combines a curriculum component which includes what to teach and a teaching procedure which is the how to teach methods. An instructional program may be small. For example, it may be a social skills lesson to teach a child to say thank you at appropriate time and context. Or an instructional program may be large, such as a two-semester algebra sequence or the complete K to 12 science program. Whether the instructional program is small or large, an instructional program will have a curriculum component that defines the goal or goals we have for the learner and a set of teaching procedures which we pertains as the pedagogy which we plan to use to achieve the curriculum goal or objectives. In an instructional program, the essence of instructional accountability or the program effectiveness resides in the relationship between the curriculum component and the pedagogy, which is the teaching component. The determination of the goal achievement is ultimately based on the measures of changes in a learner. That is, after the implementation of the instructional program, did the learner learn the objectives that we set at the start of the program? Instructional program design, also known as instructional systems design, is the practice of systematically designing, developing, and delivering instructional products and experiences, both digital and physical, in a consistent and reliable fashion towards an efficient, effective, appealing, engaging, and inspiring acquisition of knowledge. The process consists broadly of: first, determining the state and the needs of the learner. Second is defining the end goal or the objectives of the instruction. And third, creating some intervention to assist in the transition. The outcome of this instruction may be directly observable and scientifically measured or completely hidden and assumed. The influence of constructivist theory on instructional program design became very prominent in the 1990s as a counterpoint to the more traditional cognitive learning theory. Constructivists believe that learning experiences should be authentic and produce real-world learning environments that allow learners to construct their own knowledge. This emphasis on the learner was a significant departure from the traditional forms of instructional program design. As a field, instructional program design is historically and traditionally rooted in cognitive and behavioral psychology, though recent studies reveal that constructivism has influenced thinking in the field. Several works of different researchers and educators paved way to the present instructional program design. One of the most relevant is Robert Gagne. Robert Gagne's work is widely used and cited in the design of instructional programs. He provided a clear template for designing instructional events. Gagne classified the events of learning or the types of learning outcomes by asking how learning might be demonstrated. First is by cognitive domain, which involves the development of mental skills and the acquisition of knowledge. Second is the affective domain, which describes the way people react emotionally and their ability to feel another living thing's feelings. And the third is the psychomotor domain, which involves the physical performance of the learners. According to Gagne, learning occurs in a series of 9 learning events, each of which is a condition for learning which must be accomplished before moving to the next order. First is gaining attention. Before the learner can start to process any new information, the teacher must gain the attention of the learners. Second, the teacher communicates the desired outcome to the group by informing the learners of the objectives. Third, the teacher stimulates recall of prior learning by asking the existing relevant knowledge of the students. Fourth, presenting the stimulus. The teacher gives emphasis to distinctive features. Fifth, provides learning guidance. In here, the teacher provides organization of thought and relevance of learning. Six is eliciting performance. The teacher asks the learner to respond, demonstrate learning. Seventh, provides feedback. The teacher gives information feedback on learners' performance. Eighth is assessing of the performance of the learners. And ninth is the enhancement or the retention and transfer enhancement. Some educators believe that Gagne's taxonomy of learning outcomes and events of instruction oversimplify the learning process by overprescribing. However, using them as part of a complete instructional program can assist many teachers in becoming more organized and staying focused on the instructional goals. Now let us focus on the different instructional program or models that curriculum developers and teachers nowadays have been using in their instruction. Curriculum developers and teachers must choose the best mixture of behaviorist and constructivist learning experiences in order to have a good instructional program. Instructional program design is the description of the teaching learning process that takes place in a unit of learning. Perhaps the most common model used for creating instructional materials is the ADDIE model. This acronym stands for the 5 phases contained in the model: analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. The first phase is analyze. Analysis refers to the gathering of information about one's audience, which is the learners, the tasks to be completed, how the learners will view the content, and the project's overall objectives. The instructional designer then classifies the information to make the content more applicable and successful. The second phase is design. In this phase, instructional designers begin to create the project. Information gathered from the analysis phase, in conjunction with the theories and models of instructional design, is meant to explain how the learning will be occurred. For example, the design phase begins with writing a learning objective. Tasks are then identified and broken down to be more manageable for the designer. The final step determines the kind of activities required for the audience in order to meet the goals identified in the analyze phase. The third phase is the development. It involves the creation of the activities that will be implemented. It is in this stage that the blueprint of the design phase are assembled. Fourth is the implement phase. After the content is developed, it is then implemented. This stage allows the instructional designer to test all materials to determine if they are functional and appropriate for the intended audience. And the last phase is the evaluate phase, the final phase, which ensures that the materials achieved the desired objectives. The evaluation phase consists of two parts, formative and summative assessment. The ADDIE model is an iterative process of instructional design, which means that at each stage, the designer can assess the project's element and revise them if necessary. This process incorporates formative assessment, while the summative assessment contains the tests or the evaluations created for the content being implemented. This final phase is vital for the instructional design team because it provides the data used to alter and enhance the design. The second model is the ARCS model of motivational design, which was created by John Keller while he was researching ways to supplement the learning process with motivation. This model is based on Tolman's and Lewin's expectancy value theory, which presumes that people are motivated to learn if there is value in the knowledge presented or if it fulfills the personal needs and if there is an optimistic expectation for success. The model consists of four main areas: attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. The first of the components is the attention. The attention mentioned in this theory refers to the interest displayed by learners in taking in the concepts or the ideas being taught. This component is split into three categories: perceptual arousal or using surprise or uncertain situations, inquiry arousal or offering challenging questions and or problems to answer or solve, and variability, which uses a variety of resources and methods in teaching. Second is relevance. According to Keller, it must be established by using language and examples that the learners are familiar with. The three major strategies Keller presented are goal-oriented, motive matching, and familiarity. Next is confidence. The confidence aspect of the ARCS model focuses on establishing positive expectations for achieving success among learners. The confidence level of learners is often correlated with motivation and the amount of effort put forth in reaching a performance objective. And last is satisfaction. Finally, learners must obtain some type of satisfaction or reward from a learning experience. The satisfaction can be from a sense of achievement, praise from the teacher, or mere entertainment. Feedback and reinforcement are important elements, and when learners appreciate the results, they will be motivated to learn. Third is Azure model. It is an instructional design that has the goal of producing more effective teaching and learning. Azure is an acronym that stands for the various steps in the model. First is analyze. The first step in the process is that the teacher should analyze the attributes of her learner. There should be a focus on those learner characteristics which are associated with the learning outcomes desired. S is for state standards and objectives. After the analysis of the learner attributes, the teacher must state the standards and objectives for the learning module. This statement consists of a specification of what the learners will be able to do as a result of the instruction. The next S is select strategies, technology, media, and materials. Given what your learning objectives are, it is necessary to pick instructional objectives, strategies, technology, and media that will bring about the results that you want. U is utilize technology, media, and materials. This step in the Assure process concerns making a plan as to how you will utilize the technology, media, and the materials that you have selected. As with all of the instructional steps, you must make sure that your plans contribute towards producing the objectives that you have laid down from the beginning. R means require learner participation. This step actually belongs within earlier steps. It requires that you make plans to how you are going to actively engage your students in the material that you are teaching. This needs to be figured out both at the class level and the individual level. And E stands for evaluate and revise. The final step is just as crucial as all of the others. In this step, you evaluate the impact of your teaching on student learning. This includes an evaluation of your teaching strategies and the technology, media, and materials that you used. The backward design or the understanding by design model by Wiggins and McTighe states that learning experiences should be planned with a final assessment in mind. This design or this method of designing educational curriculum by setting goals before choosing instructional methods and forms of assessment. This design actually challenges traditional methods of curriculum planning. In traditional curriculum planning, a list of content that will be taught is created and/or selected. In backward design, the educator starts with the goals, creates or plans out assessments, and finally makes the lesson plans. In here, the educator starts with the end or the desired results and then derives the curriculum from the evidence of learning or the performances called for by the standards and the teaching needed to equip students to perform. It has three stages. The first is identify the desired results. Next is determine the acceptable evidence of learning. And third is design learning experiences and instruction. The idea in backward design is to teach toward the end point or the learning goals, which typically ensures that content taught remains focused and organized. This in turn aims at promoting better understanding of the content or processes to be learned by the students. The educator is able to focus on addressing what the students need to learn, what data can be collected to show that the students have learned the desired outcomes, and how to ensure that the students will learn. Although backward design is based on the same components of the ADDIE model, backward design is a condensed version of these components with far less flexibility. In conclusion, the success of any instructional program is dependent upon the student attention, active information processing, practice, and feedback opportunities, in addition to any unique requirements of a selected instructional model or design. The creation of facilitative environment for instruction is the goal of classroom management. That is, classroom management activities are those which make possible the effective implementation of the different instructional programs.